All right, got a beautiful day out here today.
Yeah, it's real nice.
Yep, absolutely. So you got a white paper coming out on construction technologies, and you have
Yeah,
a very robust background at a large hospital network here in San Diego. So Ricardo, can you elaborate a little bit
sure.
for us on your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to joining the AXA SDI team as a risk engineer, about 3 years ago is when I first joined. Prior to that, I was an owner's rep for a large healthcare system here in San Diego. Spent about 7 years with them and gained really some great macro level understanding of how projects are born even before architect, engineer, general contractor is involved with bidding or proposing on things, right? And so there's a lot of runway leading up to the project, and so really great insights into how those are developed. Prior to that, I was managing construction for a GC in San Diego as well. I've also had a stint with lab consulting as a designer as well. So I've had a good mix of experiences, and here I am in this new seat with AXA, and I feel like all of those great experiences feed into my general knowledge and awareness and insights into the building industry. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just construction, but building industry, as I like to refer to it, because of its design, its owner rep, and construction. So, I like sharing information and insights. So, one of the things that I think has fed into this white paper that I'm preparing to publish on construction technology to help owners mitigate risk is something that was born out of observations through that history that I
Mm-hmm.
have. So, a lot of it is, as I was saying, sort of bringing light to a process that may not be fully understood by some
Absolutely.
general
So I
contractors.
could see I could see on the owner's rep side. I mean, this is great stuff, right? Integrated into the building for you to manage it and keep an eye on things, especially dealing with critical facilities. You guys
Mm-hmm.
have an obligation to the community to stay up and running. But often in construction, we don't really talk about a lot of these technologies, or probably not to the extent that we should.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of technologies do we see out there that they can be, in your experience, used and integrated?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the primary objectives from an owner's perspective is, of course, having a safe facility. To the nth degree that might mean safe, meaning like not causing injury to employees, to visitors, guests, patients, of course. Um, the other part of it, another objective to it, is continued operations. So not having interruptions, or at least prolonged unplanned interruptions in the service to the community. So some of those unplanned interruptions can be caused by simple things like a contractor doing work in an area and being unaware that there's VOCs affecting or coming out of the work area and
Mm.
affecting adjacent spaces and employees and causing patients who are already susceptible to elevated, either noise or smells, right, and
Sure.
causing further discomfort. The other one is leaks, unplanned leaks in systems.
Mm.
So, and there's two scenarios to this, and that is unplanned leaks during the course of construction. As a trade perhaps charges up, pressurizes a system, perhaps a sprinkler system, leaves it overnight. There's certain periods of time that they need to leave it pressurized, and it's being observed. But even after that, they rely on the fact that it was pressurized successfully and it passed all tests. Sometimes accidents happen, right? And so even during construction, you might have some leaks that develop, and you're up on the fifth, sixth floors and of a renovation perhaps or expansion, and you've got occupied spaces down below, and now you're interrupting either patient care or office type functions. So there's a lot of risk in that.
Yeah. So I'll ask a real generic question. How do we get a lot of these technologies into the specs, into the plans, or integrated into the building?
That's a great question. And I think that's where the crux of my insights fall in that there's not a lot of awareness specific to the technologies out there from the owner perspective. And so we rely on our partners in the industry, so the general contractors who we partner and trust and have relationships with. We rely on them to bring us awareness, both industry risks, things to watch out for, trends in costs, right? Because all those get baked into our, as an owner, get baked into our development of a basis of design, if you will. Basis of design can mean an actual basis, design, preliminary conceptual planning, but also conceptual budgeting as well. And so, when we talk about technology, there's a lot of tech out there that can bring some benefit to an owner, but we just don't know what's out there. So if a GC can come to us ahead of time, perhaps even before there's even a project in play, if you're the GC and I'm the owner, before there's a project in between us, invite a casual invite to lunch and say, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's the technology available, and how we think it might benefit you. We can then take the steps to explore it, determine what the cost is to obtain that tech, what the continued operating cost of maintaining that technology on the building might be. Because as we look at the overall cost of the project, and we communicate that to the senior executives, the board of directors, and we say, hey, this project's going to cost this, and it includes these line items, including this technology that the general contractor is saying is being augmented with perhaps smart valves, water valves, right? Then the board of directors can make a decision. Yeah, we'll approve that budget, inclusive of what is it going to cost to maintain or run the project once the GC vacates, turns over the project. So, bringing that awareness to us, or to the owner, I should say, helps us make those early decisions.
Yeah, and it seems like we hear the case examples, right, in the water valve scenario, where once the building's up and running and they establish that they've had a leak for some period of time, then there's value and they retrofit the facility, and it just seems like those costs are sort of redundant. I mean, how does the GC get enough visibility on the options so that these things can be integrated into the design?
So the question of how to integrate it, I mean, that's sort of a two-prong approach, right? Because number one, you have to engage the tech company to validate, is this even a viable solution for the purpose of solving an issue on the project. And the other part of it too is on the design side. There's a lot of projects in California, specifically healthcare projects I'm thinking of, where you've got to make sure that the products being installed are understood by agencies having jurisdiction. So specifications are aligned with the design. They get reviewed, they get permitted with that specification. And if you deviate from that, or don't include some of it early on, it's a bit more difficult later on to revise drawings and incorporate new tech, new products into the project. So early involvement by the design teams, early involvement by partnerships with those tech companies is important. And I think the general contractor sort of sits in the middle of all that, especially if you think about, design build, perhaps, you have some of those influences where the GC can make some recommendations to the design team about, the efficiencies and gained by using certain technologies.
And then how does the GC get exposure to all these options so that they can try to help?
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's a great segue to AXA XL's ecosystem. We have a very, very robust set of committees, groups, groups talking about issues in the industry, how to address them either through processes or with use of technology. The ecosystem does also have a set of or a process by which we evaluate different techs, right? And so there's hundreds of techs out there that claim to be of benefit to the construction industry. A lot of it is fluff, and through the efforts of many people on the team, they have been able to review a lot of it and sort of sift through all of that. And out of, let's say, 600 techs, there's probably 30, 40 of them that have been vetted to actually bring true value to a contractor's execution of a project. And then within those 30, 40, there's technology that can translate to leaving it on site installed for the owner then to receive benefit through that same tech. So some of that is some of those smart water valves, like I was mentioning earlier. They're Wi-Fi enabled, and if there's abnormal flow during construction, the GC is able to monitor it, be notified of that abnormal flow, turn off that valve with the hope of mitigating and reducing damage and cost to the site, right? And as you think about turnover eventually from the GC to the owner, then now you've got a facility that has these smart valves installed throughout the various levels, floors, segments of the building. And now you've got an operating building that is smart, that you are able to shut off in segments if you have abnormal flow. And you're essentially mitigating and reducing interruptions to normal business.
Yeah.
Which could be either in patient care, and you might be talking about actual patient rooms being decommissioned while they're being repaired or cleaned to whatever degree that damage might have resulted, or damage to very expensive equipment, CTs, MRIs, right? And you talk about some small hospitals in rural areas. There might not be an alternative facility nearby, and so that hospital needs to be ensured that there won't be any unplanned risks or shutdowns, or at least in a prolonged manner, right?
Right. Here's a quick question for you. Did you, when you were in the healthcare system, did you have any times where you had wished you did have some of this tech in place?
Yeah, absolutely. There was some unpleasant water damage. If you can think of the unpleasantness of some of the different pipes that run through ceilings, but certainly unplanned water leaks. You've got pipes that are decades old, unions that are decades old, and water finds a way to escape from them. And sometimes the way water works, you never know where it's going to show up. So you've got potentially even microbial growth as well. So the risk of microbial growth is huge in a healthcare facility. So being aware of what where the water shouldn't be is important. So you've got moisture detectors that are strategically placed, but you also have water flow detection through your valves. So it doesn't necessarily solve the entire problem, doesn't make the problem go away, but it helps a facility bring awareness to the issues that might be brewing behind the walls above the ceilings.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so it just seems like there's so much tech out there these days, and it just makes sense to really start to push the integration into the building facilities for security and water management and all these other situations. Well, we're really looking forward to your white paper coming out. Excellent content. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.